Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining this year, our 2022 Illinois Muslim Action Day, being held virtually for and on behalf of our community. You know, oftentimes we're asked the question, why civic engagement? Building a healthy neighborhood, building a healthy community is not only a responsibility of elected officials, but it's our obligation, working with government representatives to build the neighborhood, the city, the state we want for our family and our neighbors. At the turn of this century, the council began to mobilize its membership to become more civically engaged. Over the past 20 plus years, we've held voter registration drives, met with candidates, and have worked with elected officials on issues impacting our community. We arranged internships for Muslim youth, and we have partnered with other community-based organizations to advocate for policies that help immigrants, that made the criminal justice system fairer, and that assisted Illinois families in need. A key component in building civic engagement for our community is this, Illinois Muslim Action Day, a day of advocacy. We hosted our first Imad in Springfield 13 years ago. And since that time, we have been bringing community leaders and our youth to meet and talk with legislators to share concerns and interests, how together we can make our community safe and welcoming. We are proud of the achievements we've made during that time, such as the passage of the Halal Act, the Religious Garb Act, and the No Registration Act. We are excited that today, too, we are situated with our friends and supporters in the state legislature to discuss policy issues of concern to our community. But none now more critical than the key topic tonight, anti-Muslim bigotry, often referred to as Islamophobia. This evening, I'm joined by the co-chair of the Council's Civic Engagement Committee, Shafiq Abu Bakr. And I would like to turn the platform over to Shafiq to further discuss the role of advocacy for our community. Shafiq.
Thank you, Brother Mitchell. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you, and good afternoon to each one of you. Welcome all of you to CIOGC's 2022 Illinois Muslim Action Day. In short, we call IMAD. Illinois is home to more than 500,000 Muslims. Muslims are one of the most ethnically diverse faith groups in Illinois, with 28% of them from Black or African American backgrounds, 23% from Asian, including India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, and other countries, 19% white, 14% Arab, 8% Hispanic, and the rest includes Native Americans and other ethnic groups. We started IMAD 14 years ago with the primary intention to engage with our state legislators in a meaningful way, and we have gone a long way since then. Today, the Muslim community in Illinois is one of the most civically engaged minority groups, thanks to continuous efforts by organizations such as CIOGC and its member organizations. We continue this conversation throughout the year with our elected officials and our community through our monthly town hall meetings, several candidate forums, etc. Generally, on IMAD Day, we, the volunteers, leaders, and youth from the Muslim community spend a whole day in Springfield advocating for issues that matter to us. Through the IMAD Page program, our future leaders, the youth, get an opportunity to shadow our state legislators in Springfield. Due to COVID concerns, we are doing this event virtually since last year and looking forward to bring this program back to Springfield next year, inshallah, God willing. This year's theme for IMAD, as Brother Mitchell just mentioned, is anti-Muslim bigotry and passage of Bill 5665. We have Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky and Ilhan Omar, who championed this bill, talking to us along with several Illinois state legislators. Some of our youth leaders will be presenting a few other important topics which are so critical for us. Looking forward for a highly engaged 2-hour session with you all. Once again, Thank you for your continued support and participation with CAUGC and its Civic Engagement Committee. Back to Brother Mitchell.
Thank you, Shafiq. As Shafiq outlined the program, clearly the key topic for the C is anti-Muslim bigotry. And for that, when we get to that portion of the program, as he stated, we've brought two federal legislators, congresswomen, who have fought for this. And even though this is the state program, the reason we brought them here is to highlight the issue, how it is reflected on the national level, and even now with the UN passing the Anti-Islamophobia Day on March 15th of this year, how this is becoming a worldwide movement to address this level of bigotry. But before we actually begin, and I'll share with you our entire platform for advocacy this year, to share with you, particularly our legislative panelists and guests, to get an insight on some of the issues that we have had input from the leaders of our member organizations, other community leaders, and individual members. We've fashioned a list of policies we will present and solicit your feedback. There are 5 policy components, and they are: first, mental health; 2, the status of Afghan refugees resettling in Illinois; there's BDS and boycotts, bullying, and then finally, the key topic, anti-Muslim bigotry, or which is properly known as Islamophobia. We have a community representative present for each of these issues, and we will begin with mental health, led by Mohammed Kanan Chowdhury. Brother Chowdhury.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings be with you. My name is Mohammed Hanan Chowdhury, and I am a founding member of a community-based organization called Taqwa, a Muslim mental health movement based in Illinois. I am also engaging in federal contractor work through ATW Health Solutions, providing research assistance for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office on Minority Health. Today, I stand before you to speak on the growing crisis of Muslim mental health. Imams, or Muslim faith leaders, have an integral role in community mental health. Muslim Americans are more willing to seek help from religious leaders than formal mental health services. Up to 95% of imams spend most of their time in counseling activities addressing issues beyond spiritual concerns, including family problems, relationship or marital concern, mood, and anxiety. Muslim youth are 4 times as likely to be bullied as the general public. Of those incidents, 1/4 involved bullying by a teacher or other school official. 50% of Muslim youths in one study experienced psychological bullying, while 21 experienced cyberbullying and 10% physical bullying. 17% of girls wearing the hijab were bullied because of this. In 2016, 60% of Muslim Americans reported experiencing religious discrimination. Alcohol and substance abuse is rapidly growing in Muslim adolescents and have shown to increase risk of mental distress and suicide, as they are less likely to disclose problems to their families or imams and seek help because of the stigma that surrounds topics of mental health within the Muslim community. We have identified gaps within the system, and as legislators, the call to action is to develop strong and positive systems and policy that will protect the Muslim community's mental health by reducing exposures associated with poor mental health outcomes. These exposures allude to the scope of the problem, being an absence of culturally sensitive authority figures and providers, absence of mental health screenings, structural inequalities, inadequate access to care, limited translation services, misrepresentation of Muslims in media, poverty, stereotypes and biases, and religious discrimination. A next step is to include community stakeholders, such as those imams, those Muslim faith leaders, and Muslim policymakers in the design, development, and implementation process of these revised systems and policies at the federal, state, and local levels. To make informed decisions through evidence-based research conducted by Muslim researchers to help expand and maintain access to culturally appropriate best practices, programs, and methods. Currently, there is a lack of adequate information to even make these informed decisions. The need for funding and support is critical to promote the health and safety of American Muslims, to provide the necessary access to resources, and an increase in the type of resources made available that will educate and train our Muslim faith leaders to become better equipped to serving the Muslim community on topics concerning mental health. We believe that with formal guidance and partnerships with federal agencies, raising awareness of Muslim mental health and reducing the stigma associated with seeking help can be a first step in addressing the growing crisis of American Muslim mental health. In 2020, there were an estimated 1.2 million suicide attempts. And among this statistic, 45,979 Americans died by suicide. These are recent events. Suicide is one of the leading causes of death and has steadily increased throughout the past 2 decades. American Muslims are two times more likely to have attempted suicide compared with any other religious group. JAMA Psychiatry conducted a survey where nearly 8% of Muslim respondents reported a suicide attempt in their lifetime, compared with 5% of Christian faith and 3.6% of Jewish respondents. In the US, Muslim individuals represent a religious minority group who are vulnerable to religious discrimination, structural inequalities, as well as the impact of social determinants of health factors such as mental health stigma. Existing data with the American Psychiatric Association show high rates of adjustment disorder experienced by Muslim Americans seeking mental health treatment, which is to show the challenges of acculturation and adjustment, as well as discrimination and marginalization in society. Given that policy development is an essential function of public health, according to the Institute of Medicine, and potentially required for the allocation of resources and expertise towards a viable solution, there's a strong need for Muslim policy and applied programs that specifically focus on the well-being of American Muslim communities, especially amidst the largest spike in anti-Muslim hate crimes that corresponded with the 2016 presidential election. The mental health disparities that exist today tell us that this emergent issue among American Muslims warrants attention now. I believe that the opportunity today is to begin the initiative of how our legislators can help the ethnic and diverse minority communities of America, the Muslim community of America, in building an infrastructure of systems and policies that promote the current and next generation's mental health and safety. In doing so, the intended impact is to increase the quality of life and protective factors associated with mental health, such as religious and spiritual engagement, positive ethnic identity, strong family support, community and social support, stable housing, and positive academic engagement. After all, we are one nation, communities united. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhry. Clearly we all can acknowledge that as exacerbated by the pandemic, mental health is a crisis that's facing all communities, and it is particularly as it's impacting the Muslim community. And the message we really want to share with you, our legislative guests, is that this is a policy that needs to be pushed to the forefront, how we can have more culturally based access to healthcare. I mean, there are limited options for many Illinois residents, and it's something that as a policy that we must begin to evaluate. The next platform issue we wanted to share with you relates to the status of the recently arrived African refugees resettling in the state of Illinois. Illinois generously agreed to accept several hundred Afghan refugees for them to be resettled in Illinois. But with any resettlement process, it brings challenges to successfully have these new families absorbed and integrated, assimilated into our society. This afternoon, we're thankful to have Fred Sau, the Policy Council for the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, probably one of the strongest immigration advocacy agencies in the state of Illinois, to help us frame and understand the challenges that Afghan refugees face here in the process of resettling in Illinois. Fred?
Okay, thank you, Brother Mitchell, and good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Fred Tsao. I'm the Senior Policy Counsel at the Illinois Coalition for Immigrants and Refugee Rights, ICIRR. We have been a longtime partner with the Council of Islamic Organization. Brother Mitchell in his introduction mentioned a couple of the initiatives, the Anti-Registry Act, the electoral work, the nonpartisan voter registration and voter engagement work. And for the last 8 months or so, we have been partnering with the Council, along with the Muslim Women's Resource Center, the Syrian Community Network, and a number of other organizations in addressing the needs of the newly arrived Afghan evacuees who are settling in the state of Illinois. As with any humanitarian crisis, people who are fleeing, war, devastation, face many, many challenges, not the least of which finding safety, but also, getting acclimated, getting adjusted to a new life in a new country, where you may not speak the language, or you may not be fully acquainted with the various systems that are in place, whether it's education or healthcare or law or policing. So all of these different adjustments really require intensive attention from social service agencies and other allies to make the adjustment process successful. Many of the people who have been evacuated from Afghanistan are going through the formal refugee resettlement process, but we know that process only goes so far. And in particular, the federal assistance that is provided through the resettlement process only covers the first few months of a refugee being in the United States. Beyond that, it really falls to other organizations, to fill the gaps and to continue the transition into a successful life here in the United States. And that's where, again, organizations like the Council, like Muslim Women's Resource Center, and like the Syrian Community Network have come in to really meet the needs. We have been fortunate to have been working all of these organizations and with the Illinois Department of Human Services to identify specific funding that they had available to provide basically stopgap assistance for those Afghan families who may have trouble finding work or may have other needs, and they're whether it's finding a place to live, of being able to afford rent, covering food expenses, covering other expenses, covering the needs for their children's education. So it's going to be vitally important to continue that funding, because the need is not going away, and there will be more Afghan families who will be coming to the state. We are currently in Springfield now with the General Assembly session, working on winning an increase in immigrant services funding. This funding this funding that serves the Afghan families comes through the immigrant services line item, which among other things also provides assistance for citizenship services, for liaison with state agencies that provide safety net benefits, nutritional assistance, healthcare assistance, as well as direct cash assistance for families in need. And again, a good chunk of that is going, is being dedicated to the Afghan families. So, it's right now very important to make sure that this line item is fully funded and that it even get a bit of an increase. We are seeking $53 million for immigrant services in the state budget for next year. The General Assembly session ends in just over 2 weeks, and we know that our legislative allies have made this line item a priority, but we need to make sure that our voices are heard. So, please put in calls to your state legislators to make sure that they understand the importance of the immigrant services line. One other thing that I'll mention is that while many of the Afghan families are coming in through the formal refugee process, most of them are coming in through humanitarian parole. Parole provides a temporary protection as well as a work permit for these Afghan evacuees, but by itself, it does not lead to a green card or citizenship. So, and really the only path that's available for the evacuees is the asylum process, which is unfortunately very, very badly backlogged, it's badly clogged, and it takes a long time. So we at ICRR and many of our allies are calling on Congress to pass an Afghan Adjustment Act. This is similar to other legislation that has been passed for Liberians, for Cubans, for Haitians, and people from certain other countries that have seen, that have seen, large evacuations due to political repression or civil war or other country conditions. So, there's absolutely no reason why Afghanistan should not be covered by similar legislation. Afghanistan was just this past week designated for temporary protected status. So those Afghans who are in the country, will not be facing deportation and will be able to work. But what we really need is an Afghan Adjustment Act to make sure that the people who have fled Afghanistan, who we are offering shelter and protection to, are able to enjoy fuller, more complete protection as green card holders and eventually as citizens. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak. I've been, I've spoken at quite a number of Illinois Muslim Action Days in Springfield, and I'm happy to support the council in Illinois Muslim Action Day this year as well. So thank you again.
Oh, Fred, thank you for joining again. ICER has been a strong and a long partner with the council, and we definitely appreciate your support. And as the outline, clearly, there are many families coming without resources, and so once again, money and to actually adjust their status so they can best take advantage of the opportunity of be leading to citizenship here for those refugee families. The next topic or platform issue for us relates to BDS and boycotts. And we have our guest speaker is from the American Muslims for Palestine, who will now address this issue for us. And her name is Malik Kanan. Sister Kanan, would you let me yield the platform to you now? Thank you.
All right, perfect. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. My name is Malak Kanan, and I am speaking on behalf of American Muslims for Palestine as a member organization of the Council of Islamic Organizations of Greater Chicago. Marginalized groups of people use boycotts to fight discriminatory practices, and boycotts have a long history in the United States to help marginalized groups fight discrimination or oppression. Henry Ford, the founder of the Ford Motor Company, operated a bi-weekly newspaper which regularly published articles expressing anti-Semitic views. In 1927, the Anti-Defamation League helped organize a boycott of the purchase of Ford automobiles. This boycott successfully ended the publication of this newspaper, and Mr. Ford issued a public apology to the Jewish community. From December 1955 to December 1956, African Americans boycotted the public transit system in Montgomery, Alabama to protest discriminatory practices in the transit system. The economic impact of the boycott led to the end of Black people being relegated to the back of the bus. In California, Filipino and Mexican workers united to protest low wages and working conditions for migrant workers. The workers organized a boycott of the purchase of California-grown grapes. The boycott led to the first collective bargaining agreement with California growers that provided improved wages and working conditions for migrant workers. Despite this long history in the United States of using boycotts as a successful form of protest and free speech, Illinois has passed a law that penalizes corporate sympathizers and supporters of boycotts levied against only one country, Israel. The Illinois Law Public Act 0990128 prohibits public pension funds from investing in companies that, for political reasons, refuse to do business with the State of Israel or in territories controlled by Israel, as well as blacklisting them as business vendors with the state of Illinois. This form of blacklisting companies is unprecedented, and no other country is insulated from public pressure in this way. This law effectively undermines boycotts as a means of protest. If Illinois wishes to penalize countries violating human rights, it should use a consistent standard. Illinois companies and pension fund holders should not be blocked from exercising their constitutional right to free speech. Protecting a foreign state and endorsing its occupation of another territory should not be more important than protecting the rights of Illinois residents. As advocates for the rights of Palestinians in Israel and territories occupied by Israel since 1948, this law has a chilling effect on our First Amendment right to free speech and to protest on behalf of the Palestinian people. Thank you.
Sister Malik, thank you very much. We appreciate that. And once again, the crux of the matter is the right to protest should not be foreclosed or hampered or hindered. It is, as she outlined to us, this has been a process that is historic in its roots in this country. And we're asking you as legislators to revisit this policy and afford this level of advocacy to move forward. You know, as we mentioned out to you earlier, the real thrust of this evening relates to anti-Muslim bigotry. And the next, we have kind of isolated one particular form of bigotry, and that's bullying. And oftentimes this manifests itself in schools, particularly high schools. I'm not sure if we have with us a representative for that at this particular time. So as we have on the agenda right now, we will go to the next issue, or put this issue up next, and that's halal lunches. Halal halal lunches is a important issue for the Muslim community, in that we are looking to recognize dietary restrictions that are imposed by the tenets of our belief. And this issue has also been taken up by one of our member organizations, the Islamic Food and Nutrition Council of America, IFANCA. And they have a short message, a radio message that kind of highlights this problem for us. So if we could play that radio message right now.
think we couldn't hear.
Or it's on. I think if it's not playing, then let us move to the next portion of this. What we did want to do. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
1 minute.
Good morning. We hear a lot and talk a lot about food insecurity, which is defined by the USDA as a lack of consistent access to enough food for an active, healthy life. Doesn't that seem inconceivable in this land of plenty? Well, according to Feeding America, there are nearly 500,000 people in Cook County who are food insecure. And it isn't always just about access to food, it's sometimes about access to the right kind of food, as we find out at Sullivan High School in Rogers Park.
We're a school where we speak over 40 different languages.
That is Joshua Cepeda, refugee social worker for Chicago Public Schools.
And we have a huge population of Muslim students and almost no halal options.
And for Muslims, all food must be halal, meaning sourced and prepared under Islamic rules. And the food offerings at CPS are not in tune with halal, leaving a lot of students food insecure during school hours.
83% of our students felt hungry and felt that there were no suitable halal options.
And how does that play out on a day-to-day basis?
Kids are going hungry. They're waiting till they can get home to eat. They're missing out on after-school activities. They're not able to access tutoring after school because they're hungry and they want to go home and eat. How do you play soccer on an empty stomach? And we have so many students that want to do these things, but maybe don't have the opportunity to do them because they're hungry throughout the day, because they don't have suitable halal options.
So students at Sullivan High School are taking their case to Aramark, the provider of lunches at Sullivan,
and demanding that they provide them with suitable options.
Josh Cepeda's comments came last week at a community meeting during UNICEF's Global Forum for Children and Youth. It was sponsored by the Islamic Food and Nutrition Council of America, which is headquartered in Des Plaines. From the farm to your belly, today is National Bouillabaisse Day. Delicious fish stew. And the first time I had it was here in Chicago with Lyle Dean, and he bought. That's the business of food on 720 WGN.
Thank you. Once again, what we're trying to share with you is the message. Currently in the Illinois legislature, there is a bill, Bill 3088, is called the Food Plate Bill, which is designed to address the issue of providing halal lunch options for students in the Chicago public school system. This particular bill has been sponsored by our local state senator, Ron Villavalum, and we're asking you to support this bill so we can provide students this option. And to further highlight, to get another perspective of the importance of this particular issue, we have with us this evening a student from Chicago Public School, a Muslim, who would like to now share her insights in terms of what it's like for her as a student in the high school, having no halal food options. At this time, we would welcome Sister Ghadir Abu Awad.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ghadir Abu Awad. I am 16 years old, a resident of Illinois State. I attend a Chicago public high school, and I am a sophomore. Today, I will address halal food lunches. When I say halal, I mean a lunch that is not pork, does not contain pork or pork byproducts, or was not prepared with the pork or pork byproducts, or meat that is slaughtered in a manner prescribed by the practice of my faith, Islam. I personally do not eat the lunch served at school because I never know whether it contains or was prepared with pork or pork byproducts. With other meats, I do not know if it was slaughtered in accordance with my religious beliefs, and the vegetarian options limited. As such, there is not much provided for Muslims. I'd love to be able to have halal food options, so I am not hungry for a majority of the school day. It's hard to pay attention when you have a headache, stomachache, nausea, etc., because you don't have anything to keep you energized throughout the day. It is upsetting to see that my school does not give me access to food that I can eat during the day. My high school has a large Muslim population, yet the school administration fails to accommodate to our food needs. We should not have to compromise our beliefs when selecting lunch options at school. Lunch is important for any student, and I am asking for schools to provide a halal lunch as an option in each school day. Thank you.
Sister Awad, thank you. Thank you for those remarks. And as we stated, there is currently pending in the Senate, Senate Bill 3088 that should come up for in committee or for vote. And to the extent that there will be asks or support through witness slips, we will share that with all the people who joined us tonight so that you can voice your support for this important piece of legislation, in addition to writing to your state representatives, your state senators, seeking and soliciting their support for this particular bill. As I was stating a little earlier, as we move past halal lunch, now we're going to another issue that is probably more directly impacting students in school. And it relates directly to the overall topic for this evening, anti-Muslim bigotry. And that's about bullying. Bullying, it remains a serious issue for us in the schools here in the state of Illinois, or really throughout the nation. And this afternoon, we have a student, Sister Yuma Ali Khan, who now will share the platform to share her story with us on the impact of bullying in her life. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. My name is Yumna Ali Khan, and I'm a sophomore at high school in Lincolnshire, and I will be covering the topic of bullying. When you think of bullying, it's easy to paint this picture: a designated class bully and their victim on the playground. However, when applied in the context of the real world, bullying is not as black and white as it seems. Bullying is an act that can be done by anyone and anywhere. It is an act that has a multifold impact on not only the victim, but to those around him or her. Bullying is a prevalent issue, especially amongst the Muslim population, one that impacts the entire student body. Why? Because bullying is rooted in misinformation and lack of understanding. As Muslims in America, our generations are put face to face with the stereotypes that make the understanding of our religion and culture seemingly impossible. While America is praised for creating a melting pot of identities, it's easy to overlook the harmful images that get sifted out. That is why we need to address this prevalent issue, for the safety and comfort of all those who come after that, so they never have to wonder why they're being targeted for being a different skin color, for coming from a different background, or for something as simple as being Muslim. Change can feel hard to approach, especially with issues as internalized as bullying, which is why we must work to address it where it stems, at school. Where students learn about math or English, it should be just as much of a responsibility to teach them about the diverse society that we are so lucky to be a part of. It is time for schools to take action to stop bullying before it can even start. To the many others that haven't experienced bullying, it's easy to say that the efforts put in place are enough. It's easy to put the burden on the victim to speak up for themselves. Yet, how can a victim gain the courage to speak up for themselves when pitted in an environment that invalidates their existence? When their peers, the ones they call friends, are the ones that inflict this harm due to a lack of understanding. When the people they're supposed to reach out to, their role models, teachers, and staff, are the ones that diminish the impacts of bullying. Remember the incident this past October in which Zoya Sheikh, a young Muslim girl, was embracing her faith by wearing a hijab which symbolizes strength and self-confidence for all the Muslim women who choose to wear it. Think about the courage the hijab brings and how that courage gets torn down when a teacher begins to insult that source of valiance. Take into consideration the harm done when a role model goes on with racist remarks about the religious ideals that you embrace. This incident sadly, is just one of many representing the struggle that Muslims must face on a daily basis. Now, when going home, these young students are filled with doubts about their identity, with a lower self-esteem. So think about it again with a new perspective. How can the victim bear the burden of speaking out when it's made to seem as though their experience is not justified by the social standards of acceptance that have been set? This is why we must actively be seeking change. We have to push the burden on the school to create an environment that enforces inclusivity. So the next time a student is bullied, they don't have to question their self-identity and values. Rather, the school will take the steps to reflect on what must be done to reinforce the future of a diverse America on founding principles, peace and justice for all. Thank you.
Yuma, thank you very much for sharing those thoughts and really just demonstrating the impact. Too often, I mean, we're removed from those immediate environments and we don't experience, understand the gravity and the harm that is created by bullying and in the effects it has not only on the victim as well as their classmates, as well as the person doing the bullying as well. It is important for the school to be proactive in addressing and creating an environment where bullying is not allowed to thrive or to exist. At this point in time, we've but for our key issue, anti-Muslim bigotry, which will be led by a discussion by our honored two congresswomen, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and our homegrown Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky. But before that, we just want to give you an opportunity, either to our legislators, if this is a time for you, if you have further questions that maybe we can answer, or comments, to the extent that we have an opportunity maybe to clarify a position, please, over the next 10 minutes, we want to provide you and our audience as well to put forth questions, but particularly from our legislators, because we shared our story with you. We want your feedback, how we can best collaborate, work together to bring some meaningful action on these important issues to our community. So if you would raise your hand, or we'll have people monitoring and we will yield the platform to you.
Brother Mitchell, we have Senator Laura Ellman joining us today.
Okay, can you give her the mic?
Please, Senator Laura Ellman, please go ahead.
Thank you. I had to find my unmute button. Hello, everybody. I joined a little bit late. I got to hear a little bit of the discussion of the halal lunch bill and the anti-bullying bill. And let me just say how impressed I am and refreshed at the voices that the two presenters presented. This is it's just great to hear those young voices, passionate and advocating for things that are so important. I look forward to seeing these bills. I think both of them are clearly important. And I just wanted to let you know too, that if there are other pieces of legislation or other issues that are important, please count me in as an ally, reach out to me. I will be glad to carry any bills and sponsor any bills on your behalf. I appreciate the community that you have for the greater good. And this particular organization has got to be one of the best organized and most informative and best prepared that I've come across. So it is a pleasure and an honor to work with you. And I look forward to any opportunity to do so. Thank you.
No, thank you. We appreciate you joining, taking some of your time to come to hear our concerns, and we do deeply appreciate your support, your continued support of our community as a whole. Thank you. All right. Will there be any other comments as we begin to move to the next phase of our our program, because like I said, is clearly bullying. All of these issues are important. We need to support in terms of the budget, where we ask our legislators to support the funding requests for the immigration services line in the budget. And as we say, that Senator Ron Villavalum has crafted a bill, and is in the final stages of crafting a bill to push forth halal, to provide halal options for the many Muslim students in the Chicago public school system. And that is Senate Bill 3088. I know it's not on the in the General Assembly online system yet, but it is in process. This is what was shared with us. That will be the number, and we would graciously appreciate your support of this important bill for our community. And then like I said, is
Brother Mitchell. Brother
yes.
Mitchell, we have State Representative Michelle Musman, if she can unmute and speak.
Fine, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm just glad to be on the call. I'm still on the House floor. We're waiting to get called back into session. We've got a couple of committees running right now. It's a little bit chaotic here as we head into kind of these last few weeks of condensed session. But I'm glad that you're offering this opportunity. I know many of my colleagues would like to be on the call if they were not in a committee right now. And, you know, I'm sure that I think many of your members are making arrangements to meet with us one-on-one to make sure that we're aware of what your priorities are for this year. So hopefully everyone will get that opportunity too, and we'll see what we can do to continue working on these bills. Again, with this condensed session, I'm a little concerned about, you know, bills like 3088 being able to make it certainly we'll do the best we can to keep it moving forward. And I want to give a shout out to your youngest speakers. Very well said, very eloquent. You know, I think it was very meaningful, and I think it's important that we hear these things. You know, we get a little distance from them as adults, and I think just hearing honesty is really important, and I'm glad that you're part of this. So thank you, everyone.
No, thank you, State Representative Musman. We appreciate you squeezing time out from your responsibilities in Springfield to share your point of view and to listen to our concerns. And we will look to follow up with you and your colleagues to further clarify and bring the essence of these important issues to your attention. All right. Do we have anyone else in the chat at this point in time? Or excuse me, online that would like to share a comment or have any question for us or the members of the panel? Okay. All right. Well, if there is, let me just wait a minute, but let me just share where we're at this particular point in the program.
I think Senator Ellman was saying something, right?
Yeah.
I just I see that Congresswoman Schakowsky has joined, and wanted to make sure that everyone else saw her too.
Well, she's the guest of honor this evening. We're so happy she's now joined us, and joined us a little early, and that is great. Because we are now at the point where we want to bring forth this particular issue. And like I said, once again, this is a legislative bill in the Congress. But the reason we wanted to share with you, our state leaders, is that this is a policy that is being reflected not only on the national level, but even on the international level, how we must combat bigotry. You know, it's couched in the terms of Islamophobia, an irrational fear, which is irrational to say that we would have a fear of someone merely because of their religious belief. But this takes its forms in various forms of hate, like we've already heard in terms of bullying. And we wanted to provide this as an opportunity for our Congress Congresswoman Schakowsky, as well as Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, to share with you the underpinnings and policies behind it, and what are the intended hope aspects for this legislation, and how can we model something here in Illinois that will continue to make Illinois a welcoming state that doesn't tolerate bigotry and hate, regardless of the who it is directed at. So at this particular point, I would like to start this portion of our program by introducing a young member of our community who has experienced this type of bigotry as well, and help to frame this issue and its impact on us. So at this time, I would like to turn the platform over to Imad, our next guest speaker.
Thank you so much. So, Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Firstly, I just want to say I am absolutely honored to be given this opportunity to speak on this timely focus of tackling the global challenge of anti-Muslim bigotry and discrimination. So exactly 1 year ago, a report to the Human Rights Council found that suspicion, discrimination, and outright hatred towards Muslims has risen to epidemic proportions. The report detailed a host of examples, disproportionate restrictions on the ability of Muslims to manifest their beliefs, the secularization of religious communities, limits on access to citizenship, socioeconomic exclusion, widespread stigmatization of Muslim communities. And I can go on and on speaking in regards to the report, which also highlighted the intersectional dimensions of anti-Muslim bigotry, where Muslim women confront triple levels of discrimination because of their gender, ethnicity, and faith. But these are facts and reports and statistics that many of us do not really need to hear about because they are our day-to-day experiences. You know, whether it be anti-Muslim slurs or the man in the elevator who recently refused to enter the elevator with people like me, like he said, and then told me to go back to my country, or my teacher who pulled me after class to interrogate whether my hijab was oppressing me, or whether it's just those dirty looks that I know Muslim, particularly hijabi women, are far too familiar with. So let us also remember that many acts of intolerance and suspicion may not appear in these official reports, but those acts nonetheless degrade people's dignity and our common humanity. You know, as a visibly Muslim woman who does not go to a very diverse school, I'm a senior right now, and I've been going to this school for the past, 3.5 years. I am far too familiar with anti-Muslim bigotry and how it causes our young people to question themselves and feel insecure in a country that promises them inclusion and acceptance. I know Yumna also talked about bullying, in public schools, and I can tell you that almost every Muslim that went to a public school has experiences with anti-Muslim bigotry. I'm not just an exception. All of I feel like our youth have a story to tell. And if being a constant target of anti-Muslim bigotry due to my own activism has taught me one thing, it's that I don't want anyone else to be completely belittled due to their faith. I know how that feels. It is not a pretty feeling. So we must continue to push for policies that fully respect and protect religious identity, as the Holy Quran reminds us, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha, wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qabaila li ta'arafu, inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, inna Allaha alimun khabir. That, O humankind, surely we have created you from a single pair of male and female and made you into tribes and families so that you may know one another, not that so you may take pride in your differences. Surely the noblest, most honorable you in God's sight is the one that is the best in piety and righteousness and reverence for God. Surely God is all-knowing, all aware. So diversity, we can see from this, is a richness. It is not a threat. And as we move towards an ever more multi-ethnic, multi-religious society, we need political investments to strengthen our cohesion and tackle bigotry. So let us keep working together to advance these shared values of inclusion, tolerance, and mutual understanding, so that if my little sister grows up and chooses to wear hijab, she does not have to worry about a man refusing to get into an elevator with people like like her because she chooses to embody her faith. So once again, thank you for your efforts to stand up against anti-Muslim bigotry. Let us keep striving for justice and dignity and inclusion for our Muslim brothers and sisters and for all of humanity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amina. We appreciate your comments and your insights for us to have a better understanding what you experience and how this experience is common for many Muslims, and particularly young Muslims in schools and in society at large. And the fact that this problem has been recognized and spearheaded by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and co-sponsored by Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, both minorities, both probably experiencing this sort of bigotry sometime in their lives, saw it important to pass Bill 5665 to create an office within the State Department for monitoring and combating Islamophobia that we like to reframe the term as anti-Muslim bigotry. So at this particular time, though Congresswoman Ilhan Omar had agreed and looking forward to be with us, she couldn't, but she was gracious enough to prepare a video message for our audience. And at this time, we would like to share that message, her message, for you at this moment. Could you now play that, please?
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person this evening, but I want to thank you all so much for all of your advocacy and hard work. And I especially want to thank you for your advocacy on behalf of the Combating International Islamophobia Act, my bill to create a special envoy at the State Department in charge of monitoring and combating Islamophobia worldwide. I also want to thank my co-lead on this bill, Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, who has been an incredible partner on this and so many other initiatives. We also had so much support from the Illinois delegation, and I've been grateful for the support of Representative Rush, Newman, Garcia, Danny Davis, Wigley, and Schneider for co-sponsoring the bill in the House. And finally, I want to thank Senator Durbin, who has co-sponsored the Senate version of this bill, which is being led by the Senator Cory Booker. I know many of you were instrumental in getting so much support from Illinois, so I thank you as well for that. For the past 20 years, I have seen a staggering rise in Islamophobia worldwide. At its worst, it's been Uyghurs in concentration camps in China and a genocide against the Rohingya in Burma. But these atrocities are part of a deeper fabric of violence against Muslims and impunity for violence against Muslims at a global level. In India, Prime Minister Modi's government has moved to strip citizenship from millions of Muslims and has occupied Kashmir. The situation there are only getting more dangerous. This year's report from US Commission on International Religious Freedom identified all three of China, Burma, and India as countries of particular concern, primarily because of their treatment of Muslims. In Sri Lanka, anti-Muslim laws and violence impose terror on the community. In many parts of Europe, politicians have stroked fear of Muslim refugees and immigrants. In New Zealand and Canada, white supremacist violence has targeted Muslims, including at their places of worship. None of these things are happening in isolation. We must understand these problems as interconnected. In fact, our leadership on human rights and on international religious freedom depends on recognizing Islamophobia is global in scope and requires a global effort to address it. That's why this bill is so urgent. We need a dedicated official at the State Department to track these incidents and to advocate for human rights of Muslims around the world. Our bill also adds Islamophobic violence to the State Department's annual Human Rights Report and International Religious Freedom Report. It is a simple way for us to begin connecting these dots and to truly understand how interconnected these events are. Violence against Muslims simply because of our faith runs counter to everything we believe in as Americans. This bill, of course, only applies to our foreign policy. It is my sincere hope that in focusing on the treatment of Muslims abroad, we will also begin to take much more seriously the treatment of Muslims in our own country. In this, as in all things, we are better when we are leading by example. As you all know, this bill passed the House of Representatives in December, and it is now sitting in the Senate. As I mentioned, Senator Booker has taken the lead on introducing the bill in the Senate, and he's been supported so far by Senator Sanders, Cardin, Durbin, Kaine, and Brown. We've been working closely with our Senate counterparts to bring this bill to the president's desk, and we need your help in getting it over the finish line. I thank you all again very much for your support for this bill so far, and I look forward to working together to get it through the Senate. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you this evening.
On behalf of the council, we thank Congresswoman Ilhan Omar for sharing that message and helping us to frame the issue more clearly, the problem of anti-Muslim bigotry. But we also are blessed this evening to have an Illinois Congresswoman who has stood with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar in pushing forth this important legislation to highlight, to better get our grasp on understanding the pervasiveness of Islamophobia, anti-Muslim bigotry. So at this time, I would like to yield the floor to the Honorable Jan Schakowsky, Congresswoman for the 9th Congressional District here in Illinois. Congresswoman Schakowsky, please.
Can you see me now? Okay. Thank you so much. I am really, truly honored and delighted to be with you this evening. It looks like you've had a really wonderful conference, and it is just a great privilege for me to be able to be with you this evening. I wish it were in person, and I hope that there will be a time not too long from now that we can actually gather together in person. So I have a few words, but I'm sure that that you have questions for me. You know, so for decades we have seen the kind of bigotry that both our communities have faced. Me from the Jewish community, and you from the Muslim community. And certainly there are other groups in the United States of America who have also faced bigotry. This seems to be a time when people feel even more confident and willing to say really terrible things, and even a time of violence. And so I was just so happy and proud to join with my dear friend Ilhan Omar. She is, we work together on many, many issues in the United States Congress, many that deal with justice, inequities, inequalities, and certainly bigotry as well. You know, the last year in the United States of America, the official number is you know, like more than 500 incidents of attacks and discrimination and complaints that came in about bigotry against Muslim people. You know that that is a number that is far too low. That number doesn't make any sense, because, you know, we've probably experienced as many as that in the city of Chicago alone. And as I think Amina said that the United Nations Human Rights Council cited discrimination and hatred toward Muslims as having epidemic proportions, meaning that this is all over the world and it's in greater number. Ilhan Omar listed some of the places, number of the places around the country. But we have seen that the polling that has been done that found that 67% of Muslims in the United States of America have faced some kind of bigotry. And I want to tell you that even on my staff, actually a prior staffer, Zara Samani, I remember the day that she came to the office, and as she told me her story, she broke down in tears because it was her grandmother's birthday party. And the family went out to a restaurant, and her family's from Pakistan, and her grandmother was wearing traditional garb, wonderful, beautiful dress. And someone came up to their table and said, "You get out of this restaurant, you go back to where you came from," just as Amina said, somebody said to her. And the family was so upset and hurt. The grandmother was crying. Zara's mother was crying. They packed up the dinner, had it, put away, and they left the restaurant. And one of the things that hurt Zara the most was that none of the patrons in the restaurant stood up. And I said to myself, that's a lesson. When you see that kind of activity, you need to stand up and say, no, that's wrong. You should get out of this restaurant. And at the end of the day, the person who was in charge at the restaurant, the manager or the owner, did eject that woman from the restaurant. So it was very, very close, very, very close to home. I remember right after 9/11, when there was so much bias and hatred aimed at Muslim people after the Twin Towers were destroyed. And so I called for a march down Devon Avenue where everyone came of every race and religion, carrying American flags and saying, we are together, we stand in solidarity with one another. Because I represent a very diverse community with people from all over the globe. Among those people are the Rohingya people who I have the largest representation of Rohingya people from Myanmar of any other district. We have the Rohingya Community Center on Devon Avenue. And just last week, the Secretary of State, the State Department, declared what was done to the Muslim people in Myanmar a genocide. And it is important to name things. It is important to say what they really are, because so many of those people were slaughtered, women and children alike. I mean, I have been there. I went there. And I saw many of the refugees who are now in Pakistan, and I also went to Myanmar itself and talked to people there. This was, in fact, a genocide. And fortunately, our community has welcomed them to safety, but still so many have been lost. So Ilhan and Ilhan Omar got together, and I got together and said, let's do something. Let's make a statement at the very least that this is not tolerable, that the United States of America needs to take a position. And so the legislation that we passed in the House of Representatives, HR 5665, the Combating Islamophobia Act. And I think Ilhan laid out, the main provisions, that it creates a special envoy for monitoring and combating Islamophobia. Now, we have such a thing, a special envoy for combating anti-Semitism. And I thought it was absolutely high time, because I so much associated myself with the violence and the discrimination that I saw in the Muslim community, that it is high time that we also had a special envoy. So that has been done. And the job of that person is to monitor and combat. You prefer not Islamophobia, whatever the phrase you prefer, but that's what the bill is called. And secondly, it does include, it does require the State Department to keep a record and make a yearly report of what we see. And while those things are very important, I think the most important thing I can say about the bill is that it does put the United States on record as a leader in the world to combat the kind of discrimination that your community has faced everywhere in the world. And, some places that we may not have expected it, right? And even in Muslim majority countries, we have seen that happen. And so we're going to get the data, and collecting data is meaningful, so that we can actually measure this and hopefully measure how the numbers go down over the years. So I am just so happy and so proud to be a co-sponsor of this legislation, especially with Representative Ilhan Omar, and that it passed the Senate, as she said, on December 15th, 2021, and the vote was 219 to 212. So, I'm hoping we can even get more. And I would like to now just thank you and open it for questions.
Congresswoman Schakowsky, thank you. Thank you for your remarks. And more importantly, thank you for supporting this important piece of legislation. And as we said, the premise for us sharing this, in addition to highlighting this important policy initiative, was to engage our state leaders to how do we make sure Islamophobia doesn't thrive in the state of Illinois. And I guess a preliminary question is, recognizing that it is to collect data, are there any particular directives that you see should be there for the State Department in terms of fulfilling that second function of combating Islamophobia? Or is that too premature at this point?
No, I mean, I think the implication of this legislation is that calling it out, shaming places where it occurs, naming names. So the data is very important, because we've had the more anecdotal data that it's now an epidemic. But let's put the faces, let's put the numbers to it. If we think as we go along, if you think as we go along that there are specific things that need to be done, we will certainly, suggest that to the administration and to the State Department. But when we see that kind of violence, there are times when countries have been sanctioned sanctions have been applied. And, you know, that could be considered as an option as well.
No, clearly the data it can drive policy. It's no question about that. One other thing though, in terms of considering this, you know, in terms of a policy initiative, and I share this with our state elected officials as well, to what extent can we become proactive? And by that, I mean, just like when we deal with other, and let me analogize it to some of the initiatives we've done in related to health. You know, where we take affirmative steps to educate the community of the ills of a particular problem. And as we were suggesting, even with bullying, where we're suggesting for the school to be proactive in combating bullying, not waiting till we experience an incident and figuring out how we would contain the damage. To what extent could something like that be fashioned as the policy, you know, to have programming that really addresses what Islamophobia, or more particularly, we want to call it, because we think there should be an irrational fear of our religion, but clearly what we're experiencing is bigotry. But nonetheless, even with the nomenclature of Islamophobia, how do we to what extent can we have policies that would inform either the people about Islam or some of the irrational thoughts that are feeding some of this Islamophobia thoughts and actions?
I think it's so important. And you do see around our country that there's a pushback on teaching those things in the school, you know, real things, actual facts, you know, that when they talk about critical race theory, that we're hearing, oh no, we can't teach history. That's what we're talking about, teaching history in the schools. You don't want the children to feel too uncomfortable when you learn about slavery in this country or bigotry in this country. So I agree with you as a former teacher that it is so important that the curricula that we have, and I will tell you that some years ago, even before I got to the state legislature, a bill was passed to require the teaching of the Holocaust. And there are probably more Holocaust deniers now that I hear about than there have been for probably since World War II. But it's very important that our children, all of our children, you know, learn the facts, but also are taught about diversity, taught to be friends with everybody, that we're intentional about teaching those things, that it can't be left to chance that our children learn these things. So, you know, we at the federal level don't have much control over curricula. That really is done at the state level. But I think, again, this legislation makes a statement about what is un-American, that Islamophobia is un-American. And so one of the things I think that needs to be done is we need to get more co-sponsors in the Senate. And so, you know, here in Illinois, we have one of our senators on the bill. We need to get our other senator on the legislation, Tammy Duckworth, and we need to reach to our allies around the country to just get more people on the legislation so that we can move it to the president's desk.
No question. Well, let me one additional follow-up question. As you have seen let's say the progress of the envoy addressing anti-Semitism, what lessons have you seen there that may be informative for us as we try to push forward this particular bill that could either, you know, be points for advocacy or points to inform us of policy that we could share with our state legislative leaders? Because as I said, our objective is to have policies that will continue to make Illinois a welcoming state for all people?
Well, I wish I could tell you that having for a fair amount of time, having a special envoy against anti-Semitism has actually come up with strategies that have reduced anti-Semitism. And I want to tell you that even, now in our communities, particularly in the northern suburbs, there have been, there's been literature that has been passed around, one of which at least had my face on it, along with Brad Schneider, who is also Jewish, talking about how the Biden administration is all Jews, that Jews are the cause of the COVID crisis that we had and have had in our country. And then naming some local Jewish leaders like myself, with pictures on the left and papers on the driveways. So there's no question that we have a lot of work to do. Our hope here was to create a mechanism within a home for addressing these issues in a much more overt and clear and data-driven way. The data that comes out annually will be very, very important. And then there's other policy options that I think we need to pursue that actually do even more of the work of combating.
No, that and what we were looking for, and you've been most helpful in that regard, is to allow this evening to be a platform where we can exchange some of these ideas to help inform all of us how, as a community, we can come together. Because this is a community problem. It's not, it may particularly affect one group, but to the extent that one of us are being victimized, we're all being victimized.
Exactly.
Because it may only be a matter of time before we are the subject of that hate.
Exactly. So, when we get an envoy appointed, I would really suggest that you be in touch with that individual and talk about your ideas for what is the strategy to carry out this mission of monitoring and combating. So activism, I believe in it. I believe in the power of the people to make things happen. So I would definitely suggest that you be involved at every step.
Thank you for those words. And I think we do have some questions. Christy Wessel, can we give her the platform so she can ask or speak?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm the district director for State Rep Michelle Mussman. And Congresswoman, I am just a huge fan. So thanks for all the work you do. I mean, it reaches out to our district. We're really proud of you. I did want to bring up something that came up a couple times in my casework that maybe the Congressman can keep in mind and talk to the right people. During the pandemic, a lot of our Muslim families have, gone through some financial insecurities, like everybody. And for some strange reason, overwhelmingly, I've been contacted by some of the parents who have taken out Parent Plus loans for education for their children, sometimes their grandchildren. And we keep hearing, discussions about forgiveness of school loans. And I just don't want the feds to forget about the Parent Plus loans because those people are way more at risk. They're older. A lot of them are never going to work again. And so, as you know, when you miss a payment, the amount that you borrowed compounds, and it's quite a nightmare. So I've reached out to every federal partner I know. I don't seem to be getting any traction. So, and for all I know, they are talking about it and they are aware of it, but I'm just not hearing that. So I just wanted to bring that up.
So I'm really glad that you brought this up because I take such great pride in the constituent service in my office. And I hope that all of your people know about our main office on Broadway, 5533 North Broadway, and Leslie Combs, who's my district director. And we handle all kinds of issues like that. I really would suggest that you give Leslie a call, who may be able to have a more explicit answer on how to deal with the roadblocks that so many people have faced when it comes to loans, getting grants, all the kinds of financial things that families need. And then we, take it from your state legislative office, take it to my office, and we're happy to help. And I just want to expand a little bit and say we welcome people to come to our office. We have helped thousands and thousands of people, immigration issues, all kinds of issues that they think only apply to their family, but many families are facing. So, be sure and let us be of help.
Thank you so much. And just one other quick thing that I just wanted to just let you all know is happening. A lot of our local, well, actually all of our schools are participating in surveys done by our Communities for Positive Youth Development here in our district, in State Rep Musman's district. And so it really does an encompassing survey on student behaviors. And so they always absolutely include bullying numbers and everything around behaviors at that age level. So after the survey is done, then we usually get a report on what those bullying numbers look like. And then because they are existing on a grant, then they specifically go out and work on those numbers appropriately. And they create safe havens and a place to talk. And they do actually teach in the schools and are very approachable for the students. So that is happening at the state level. Thanks.
Well, thank you.
I think we also have to teach our kids to be that person that stands up when they witness bullying and saying, don't do that. We don't want to have that in our classroom. That's not right. And, to give kids the courage, because I'm sure once one child says that others will follow. So to be that person, I think is something we need to teach.
All right. I'm
Brother
just seeing in the chat that Representative Janet Rohr is in attendance. Understand? Would you like to share some comments with the audience?
Hi there. I really appreciate you all putting this this day of action together. I do apologize for joining late and for probably having to leave in about 2 minutes to get onto the floor. Sometimes this happens during session time, but I think from the state side, from the state legislature side, we also have State Rep Michelle Musman on. I think we've passed some what I think are some great bills to make sure that we are celebrating all of our state's culture and diversity. There was, as I know you all know, for example, passing Muhammad Ali Day, our education task force. So it's so important to making sure that students understand, the importance of culture diversity. The student athlete uniform bill, all of those I was so happy to support, and I know so many of my colleagues were very happy to do so too. I see a lot of people, at least as panelists and attendees who I recognize. I will absolutely be following up with them to understand, just what the takeaways are, what your asks are, to make sure that we are still supporting you. So thank you very much.
No, thank you for joining and sharing, and we sincerely appreciate your support and look forward to continue working with you on some of these policy initiatives. At this time, if I'm correct, do we have any further questions of Congressman Jen Schakowsky? If not, then First, please accept our deep appreciation for you joining with us, taking your time. And I know you're a public servant, you're a teacher, so you want to make sure the message gets home, but still it is taking up your time, and we do sincerely appreciate you spending with us and sharing the insights, and in essence, almost giving us a pep rally and getting us ready for the fight that's still that is ahead to get this special envoy for Islamophobia. And we thank you for the encouragement and being a more than a cheerleader, being a strong player in getting this bill through Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, and consider me your partner so we can work together.
All righty, 2 thumbs up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, I would now yield the floor to the chairperson for the Council of Islamic Organization, Brother Irshad Khan. Irshad.
Thank you. Thank you, Brother Mitchell. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. I'm so honored and so appreciative of everyone joining, all the panelists, the state reps, Congresswoman Jankowski, and others who participated today as a big event for us. This is an event that Illinois Muslim Action Day has been a signature for the council, which is celebrating its 30 years in existence. And this past 30 years, it has been a voice for all the Muslim community with the Chicagoland area. We represent over 70 plus mosques and Islamic schools, service organizations, and we are the largest Muslim organization in Chicagoland area. And we thank all of you today for joining and helping us, being your voice, and the voice that has been shared today and the concerns have been shared today with the state reps and also our Congresswoman joining it today. So I thank you for that. And thank you for your participation to be part of this civic duty that we have. I think Congresswoman Jankowski put it really nice. Islamophobia or anti-bigotry is not acceptable, and it is not acceptable in all forms and shapes. So how are we addressing it, and how are we being your voice of our community? And that's what the representation that we had today. And we have been representing and being your voice for past 3 years, and then we will continue to be your voice for years to come. So now, before I get into my closing remarks and also share what CIGC has planned for the rest of the year, I wanted to play the video that we were unable to play before. Senator Dick Durbin, Tammy Duckworth. Sana, do we have that video ready?
Yes, Brother Irshad, I'm sharing.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Senator Tammy Duckworth, and it's an honor to join the Council of Islamic Organizations of Greater Chicago community for today's Illinois Muslim Action Day. First, I want to thank CIOCG for all that you do throughout the Chicagoland area. From helping resettle Afghan families in Chicago to helping administer more than 10,000 COVID-19 vaccines for the community, to helping hundreds of families access nearly $1.5 million in grants for rental and utility assistance. Your work helps strengthen our community and makes Illinois the great state that it is. Well, thankfully, we no longer have a president in office who pushes racist and hurtful anti-Muslim rhetoric and bans. Our work is far from over. Now, as much as ever, it is critical to be engaged and involved in our democracy. And that is why it is so important that you are here today, learning about policymaking processes and hopefully planting the seeds that will empower you to stay engaged and keep working to help improve our community. It's so important to me to be a part of this effort, and that's why I'm so grateful to have dedicated partners like CIOGC. Thanks for going on to Thanks to ongoing projects such as the mental health training and counseling, Get Out the Vote, free clinics at masjid, and much more, your work helps to make sure that pathways remain open that can change people's lives and enrich and engage our communities in the process. With every voter that you register, with every piece of legislation you advocate for, you are helping to make your community, cities, state, and country a better place. Thank you again. Happy Illinois Muslim Action Day.
Thank you, Senator Tammy Dickford, for your remarks. We really appreciate. The work of CIGC is expanding the role in the civic space, and we're going to continue to do that and continue to be your voice. And the activities that we have planned for the rest of the year is our monthly session of congressional, and we're gonna continue doing that. We're also going to expand our voting registration to most of our membership, and make sure that everyone in the state of Illinois is registered. And we want to encourage everyone, our members and non-members, to participate in the civic process. That is our right in the state of Illinois, and that's our right as a U.S. citizen. So we will continue building on to the voter registration, and our go to vote information will be available on our website, and make sure that you log in and you get information, timely information. We're also planning on having a pollster and phone banking, election judges, a lot of work within the civic space that we're planning for this year. How can you participate? How can you be part of this journey that we have started? And we're going to continue to be that journey and in the civic space. And that's what we're asking you today. Everybody who join with CIGC to make sure our voice is amplified, and we are speaking as one voice, as one ummah. The issues that are close to us, the issues that are near and dear to us, as Amina talked about, as Yumna talked about, and other speakers who talked about today, we have to take a stand on it. And that's the role of CIGC, is speaking on behalf of you, to represent you in the area where we need to have an advocacy and policy, where we need to have legislative agendas, driving our initiatives, and we want to be on top of it. And that's the role of CIGC. And inshallah, we are committed to continue to be your voice in this years to come, inshallah. With that, we also have opened up the internship program for CIGC. Brother Shafiq Abu Bakr is handling the internship youth program. If you are interested in the civic space and want to be an intern, please sign up with Shafiq Abu Bakr, or log into our website and enter your information. And we will be more than happy to have you part of CIGC family to further those initiatives that we have taken in the civic space. And that's our role. And inshallah, we're going to continue to play our role. And we need your support and we need your help. With that, I want to again thank you all for joining today. And it has been an amazing journey for us. And we want to continue building on to what we have started in the civic space. And inshallah, being your voice, that's our role and representation that we're going to continue to do rest of the year, inshallah, and the years to come. With that, again, I want to thank you, and I'll turn it over to Brother Abdullah Mitchell to do his closing remarks.
Once again, good evening. We are humbled by your participation. It just reinforces in our minds that we are on the correct path, that we can bring meaningful change that benefits not only the Muslim community, but all of Illinois. When we speak of advocating for mental health, that's really, we've highlighted how it's impact Muslims, but it's important for all Illinoisans to be able to access good mental health care. Or as we say, how do we reframe the perception of different minority groups within the state of Illinois so that they are all welcome? This is a journey, as we, in my initial remarks, saying that we cannot solely depend on our legislators to provide all the answers. They need our help. We all must pitch in and work together in finding solutions and building policies that makes Illinois the most welcoming state in the United States.